That's a key question, and typical answer is always start immediately working on this. But we know that that doesn't work, that doesn't happen, and doesn't make sense. Also because we know, especially startups in the beginning, they want first to validate some ideas, they want to test it out, and then they will try to speak to investors and work perhaps with a hospital, with a clinical study, for a clinical study or trial. So they will, before they are able to work on such complex topics that typically require investment in time, but also resources, they need to pay consultants typically to do some steps. It can be like after 2 years after they started, from the moment they started building the startup and the idea. So it really depends on the cases. The main obstacle that companies have, and when they really need to be ready, for example, in B2B space, is when they need to start working with a partner, or need to sign a partnership, or need to start a clinical study, a clinical trial. That's where they really asked to provide documentation and to provide confirmation that they have GDPR compliance in place. On the B2C side is a bit different. Typically, there is no such approval processes. So companies need to start the basic legal aspects, at least on GDPR compliance, when they start getting the first customers, when they publish their app on the Play stores, on the stores. So they need to think about that somebody will scrutinize their legal questions. So that's where they really need to set it up and have it ready. So, and last point, last category to mention is DTX, digital therapeutics, for example. It's a very regulated space, as we know, and very regulated from MDR point of view, from also ISO 27000 point of view. They need, but also GDPR, of course. There are a lot of questions. So those companies that are in the DTX space, they need to get ready a bit before on this topic. I don't want now to share details. We don't have time, but they need to set up everything more seriously, more comprehensively than everybody else, than non-DTX companies. So that's the general approach on GDPR that we see with startups, especially, and that makes sense considering their timeline.